Hello, welcome to Nerd Time. My name is Veronica, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about the sunk cost fallacy that we as author tend to kind of fall into. And while we're doing it, because I'm having that little brain moment, I am putting together an old gift that is a Lego bouquet kind of situation. And we've gotten quite far, so I'm happy with the progress. But meanwhile, while I'm doing this, I want to talk to you a little bit about different aspects about sunk cost fallacy, specifically in the author space. And for those who don't know what sunk cost fallacy is, very poorly explained, it is when you've poured a lot of time and effort into one thing so that you feel like you have to keep going in order to gain something from it. Even though when your gut feelings or statistics or whatever is saying that, hey, it's time to switch gears. Imagine that old image where you have two miners. At the top, the dude is just digging away. He's inches away from the treasure, and the bottom one is the dude has given up even though he's inches away from the treasure. That's kind of the mentality of if you just keep going, you're going to hit treasure. And while that might have been true once upon a time, we are not in that type of situation because the book market has become so saturated that sunk cost fallacy isn't like just keep going with what you're doing isn't necessarily going to serve you. And this is where you probably hear a lot of authors talking about right to market in order to shift around, in order to follow where the treasure actually is. And yes, why I have mixed feelings regarding right to market, because I see the idea behind it and I think that it has a lot of validity, and I think it's definitely something that everyone should be aware of. I just don't adhere to it, and I don't think that people should adhere to it like a law of the land type of thing. There are plenty of authors who see financial success that doesn't write to market. They write to a different market that works for their type of stories. And think about Sarah J. Maas. Think about Colleen Hoover. Think about those types of stories that have become really big. And they are definitely, and they became big, and then you saw a plethora of books, like that almost feels the same, like almost copy paste, flooding the market, right? This is people identifying that this is the market right now. I'm gonna write to market and then just push out that book or as many books in that style as possible to gain readership, money, etc. That is writing to market in a nutshell. I personally have gripes with it because I feel like you lose the core of your writing. Your books feel very empty. As I said before, I'm not necessarily liking the connotation regarding calling you lose the soul, but I think a lot of people resonate with that phrasing, so that's why I'm gonna say it. Like, it feels very soulless. It doesn't feel like you have a lot of individualism or a lot of creativity in these books. Personally, I feel like that. So that's why I'm also having a little bit of gripe with the concept of right to market, even though I firmly agree and believe that every author should be aware of the concept and should be able to keep an eye on that in order to make conscious decisions and more informed decisions that aren't based on just, oh, this is just what my gut is telling me. No, it's like based in reality and all of that stuff. So learn it and then adopt it to what you need it to be in order to do your own thing as well. And then we move into the actual writing of things. Let's take you have a series. You've written 5 books in a series. You really loved the story at one point. When you got started, you were like, yeah, this is the story kind of thing. And then you got 5 books in and you're just not liking it anymore. It's a struggle. The analytics are down. All of the signs are saying this isn't working anymore. And I want to be very clear that it's one thing to look at the statistics for if people are buying your book and reading it and everything, But you should also, in order to have a more holistic approach, I guess, to your author career, is that you also need to take into consideration your own feelings and health and capacity in this equation, because you might hate it, but if the readers love it and this is your moneymaker, yeah, maybe you need to just take a step back and like, I don't want to say suck it up, but kind of like suck it up in a, not in a derogatory way that I've had it used against me, but be more like, okay, I can keep writing this series even though I personally don't like it anymore, but it fuels the my system, the financial part of the system, so that I can write the stories over here that aren't necessarily making as much money as I needed to in order to pay bills and all of that stuff. But this is where my passion project is. A lot of authors have to do this. A lot of musicians have to do this, where they do a project or a day job. A lot of authors and musicians and artists in general, I would arguably say that probably most people today view that the job, their day job, is this aspect of like, yeah, I have to do this in order to pay rent and for food and all of that stuff, but this is my passion project. And you can take that same thing into your own writing and say like, hey, this series that I'm not necessarily loving is what is keeping this business afloat, so I will keep writing it in order to actually engage with the passion projects that I have. You need to be able to approach this career in a holistic way, because we want you to last for a longer time, and not only for your own sake, but also for your readers, because the better health you're in, and I mean that literally all of them, healthy, like mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, etc., the better health you are in, the longer you will last, and the more you will be able to produce, etc., etc. So you need to be able to take that into consideration in your own business, in your own caretaking responsibilities. You know, it's not just about other people. You should also take care of yourself. So if you're lucky enough that you're in a position where you don't have to make that choice, whether like, do I have to keep going with this? You can just say like, I no longer feel this, so I'm just gonna either kill it completely, or I'm going to put it on a shelf and maybe come back to it later at a later time, and just focus on chasing those things that you want to do. I am so envious, but I love that for you. But you won't be facing the same thing. Like this doesn't necessarily apply to you in that case. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Like everyone wants to be the lucky person, right? And that the same thing goes for if you feel like, hey, I'm no longer happy with the thing that I produced 10 years ago. I'm no longer happy with those stories. It is okay for you to go back and change them. If you feel like you need to rewrite things, or even in the current project that you're having, if you've written 100,000 words or even like 50,000 words, and you feel like, hey, I'm not happy with this and I have a deadline in 3 months, it is okay for you to say, hey, I'm going to push that deadline and I'm going to redo these things because I am not happy with it. And you don't have to follow through with certain things if you are not comfortable with it. It is okay for you to have standards or for you to have limitations and boundaries. All of these things are important for you to have. So something I would also say is that if you are new to the author space, or if you're in the author space and you haven't asked yourself these questions, I would ask yourself, what are your limitations? When is it okay? When is it not okay? Because especially when we're doing indie stuff, we are in control of our own things, but we also have to chase the deadlines. We have to chase the market, all of that stuff. We don't have an entire team behind us. Well, most of us doesn't have an entire team behind us of marketers who are keeping up with the trends and keeping on top of things when they having contacts in the different publishing houses and knowing what is going to be coming out soon. We don't have that luxury. So you need to ask yourself, what are you okay with? What are you not okay with? Where are your lines? Like, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to write purely to market, or do you feel like you need to do purely your individual thing? Why not? I would say that you need to ask yourself what you're okay with and what you're not okay with. Because if you go purely individual, it's unlikely, statistically unlikely, that you will be able to have financial success, at least for a long time, until you've managed to somehow build up that audience one at a time. Whereas if you write fully to market, you will be chasing, like, you have to, like, deadline upon deadline upon deadline. You might see financial success, but at the same time there will be a higher demand for you to produce 5-6 books a year just to keep on top of that, and you are highly likely to burn out. So you need to ask yourself what you're okay with and what you're not okay with, and that it's perfectly fine if these change during your life, during your career. You should be asking yourself this regularly. Hey, am I still interested in this? And it is okay for that to change. You don't have to keep chasing this one thing because that's the one thing that you have poured so much time and effort into. And I get it. It is so hard to let go of something that you have invested so much time and energy into. But I promise you that when you make that choice, you're going to feel so much better. Like, it's going to be like a weight off your chest, because you have been wanting to make this change. It's just that your mind hasn't gotten to that point yet, which is normal. People struggle with change all the time, and dealing with the sunk cost fallacy is one of the biggest changes you will do, because you are literally dedicated your life to something that you're now changing. And that includes, like, if this is a book, or if it is a serial, or if it is a film, or if it's a song, or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Or if it's even like, hey, I don't really feel like being an author anymore. I just want to write for myself, and I don't want to chase this career anymore, which is fine. You need to allow yourself to make these changes, because if you are feeling like, hey, I'm no longer getting joy out of this process or this career, then you need to allow yourself to accept that and let go. And there will be other interesting and great things out there that you are going to pursue instead. Like this concept that we have to be in one place for our entire lives, in one profession for our entire life, have one hobby for our entire life, this one thing that we are the best at, really great at. What does that bring you if you don't get any joy from it? Like, really, ask yourself, like, why am I chasing this thing if it's not giving me anything in return that I actually... Of course, it might give you money and everything, but you can get money from other things. So ask yourself, why are you pursuing something that is causing you more difficulty or more harm and so on? There's gonna be moments in your author career that's gonna be rough as heck, okay? There's gonna be times when you want to quit because you just can't do it. And I would argue those things are normal, and you have to make your decision every time. Is this your breaking point, or is this just like, no, it's just a regular bump, it's fine, and like when I get over this, I'm gonna feel that joy again. Or is it that you're just like, no, it's constantly like this, even when I get over the bump, I'm no longer enjoying it? Then I would seriously ask if this is really what you want anymore. Oh, my leg is falling asleep. Oh. There's nothing wrong with quitting. I know that our society constantly demonizes giving up or quitting and all of that stuff, but sometimes it is the right choice. Just as an example, a few years ago, I was running an online gaming community, and it was great for a while. It lasted for about 5 years. At our peak, we was 120 people and all of that stuff. And then year 5, me and my partner, we were just looking at each other and going like, we are no longer enjoying this. Even though the few times that things are working great and it's fun, it doesn't outweigh the mental and physical, emotional toll that we were taking from it. So eventually we sat down and discussed all of these things, and we decided that we were no longer interested in running this, even though we had long-term plans for this and we were so excited for it when we started and everything. And we closed that chapter, and I've just never really felt like the weight of my chest was to a point where I was like, oh, I should have done this a long time ago. And that's a feeling that you don't want to get. You don't want to hold off on a change to the point where when it finally happens, you just go, oh, I should have done this like years ago. It should have been like, oh yeah, this was the right time. Like, this chapter is closing, this door is closing, the train's taking off, whatever metaphor you want to use here. When you start feeling that feeling like, oh, it's time to move on, allow yourself to do that, because you're going to feel a lot better about yourself and your situation, and you're going to remember those times with a lot more positivity and joy than if you dragged it out for a really long time. So I just want to say that don't fall for the sunk cost fallacy. I think that it is very easy to say, and don't get me wrong, I still fall for it, even though I'm thinking about these things all the time. So it's not necessarily going to be easy, but I think the more we practice it and the more we keep aware about it, the easier it's going to become. And speaking from experience, it is something that helps you when you let go of that. Like, oh, if I just stick it out, like, no, leave. Find greener pastures, find a different joy, go on your travels and go to a new place or whatever it is. Go to a different cafe, it's fine. This cafe isn't serving me anymore. So you know what, I'm gonna go down the street to this other cozy little place, and that's fine. Whatever, if it's a big change or a small change, it doesn't matter. Whatever you need, you should be doing it, and you should try to be kinder to yourself, because I know most of you are like me and you're gonna be kicking yourself over this, and we deserve better than that. By ourselves, first and foremost. We need to validate ourselves first and foremost, and we deserve better. We deserve better from ourselves, and we deserve better from the world, but we can only control ourselves, so we damn well better treat ourselves better, because that's what we need and that's what we should be doing. So yes, ending it on this very positive note. I hope that you like this video. I hope that you like this type of content. If you do, make sure to hit subscribe and maybe even a like button. And I do have a Discord server if you want to jump on in over there and have more conversations. It's very brand new. It's not even completely set up, but if you want to, I do have a link down below. And otherwise, I hope that you have a good day, night, or wherever you're in a time stream. And I will see you next time. Bye! So this is the finished version. Oop, I can't nudge it too much. I had to tie it together with a hair tie. But, I really like it. It's very cute. So thank you to my colleague.